Have you ever stopped to think that maybe our story didn't begin with great empires or legendary heroes, but with a simple stick shoved into a termite mound? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly where the hidden thread of the secret origins of humanity begins. What lies behind sleep, the first primitive tools, and even the mysterious figure of Toumai can completely change the way you see the past, and, most importantly, the present. After all, how could something so fragile ignite our technological evolution? And why do we still carry that same survival instinct deep within us? In the very first steps of our history, long before any book was ever written, there was already the cleverness of turning the simple into something extraordinary. A piece of wood was not just a piece of wood. It became an extension of the hand, able to reach the termites hidden deep inside the earth. This use of sticks was the very first spark of what we now call the first human tool, proof that the human mind has always looked for shortcuts to overcome the struggles of daily life. These primitive tools were the seed of everything we now know as technological evolution. If today someone uses a paper clip to unlock a phone, or props up a wobbly table with a book, they are repeating the exact same logic of our ancestors. It's pure creativity, born when necessity knocks hard, and solutions must come from whatever is available. Small gestures that may seem silly, but that change the way we face life. And along with those discoveries came something even more surprising, paying attention to the power of nature itself. Little by little, they realized that certain leaves could ease pain, that some roots helped wounds heal. These were the first steps in prehistoric healing, guided by ancient medicinal plants. Think of the tea your grandmother used to make for stomach aches or to calm your nerves. That tradition wasn't born yesterday, it echoes from a time long, long ago. While they hunted with sticks and learned to heal with leaves, something greater was already unfolding. The world itself was about to change, forcing these groups to move along with it. The planet has never been a still place, and our ancestors felt that in their own skin. There was a time when the earth shook because the tectonic plates between Africa and Europe collided, shifting rivers and reshaping mountains. The Mediterranean, which today we know as full of life, once dried up, leaving behind vast arid regions. Think about the impact of that. A group that once lived near water suddenly found themselves surrounded by dust and scarcity. There was no choice but to move, because staying meant dying of hunger or thirst. This need to search for new territories made different groups of apes and early humans spread out, starting a great wave of dispersion. Every step was a gamble, a calculated risk, moving forward without knowing what they would find. It's not very different from what we do today when someone leaves a steady job to pursue a dream, or when a family moves to another city hoping for better opportunities. There's always fear, but there's also hope, and it was exactly that mix that pushed our ancestors to venture into unknown lands. And in the middle of these changes, it wasn't just the physical landscape that transformed, but also their mindset. Each migration brought contact with new plants, new climates, new challenges to adapt to. That expanded their knowledge of ancient medicinal plants, strengthened their ability to improvise with primitive tools, and made technological evolution an inevitable process. When the environment forces change, you either learn quickly or get left behind. And it was in that battle for survival that a new figure appeared, one that stood more upright and would forever change the way we inhabited the world. 7 million years ago, along the shores of Lake Chad, a small but groundbreaking figure appeared, the Sahelanthropus, also called Toumai. He still looked very much like an ape, but he carried within him a trait that would change everything, the habit of standing upright more often. This early form of bipedalism wasn't a whim, but a practical response to life on the open savanna, where standing tall meant seeing farther, spotting predators, and finding food hidden on the horizon. That simple detail, putting the body's weight on two legs, was one of the greatest primitive tools nature could offer. By standing up, the hands were freed for other tasks, opening the door for the use of sticks, the collection of roots, and the handling of sharp stones. It was as if Toumai was paving the way for the first true human tools, showing that survival depended not only on strength but also on adaptation. Today, when someone talks about reinventing themselves, they're doing the same thing Toumai did millions of years ago, finding a new way to use body and mind to overcome challenges. But there was something else fascinating about Toumai. He lived in groups, and within those groups the first forms of hierarchy began to take shape. Stronger males imposed respect, and a kind of social order emerged. It may sound distant, but look at a workplace or even a group of friends. There's always the one who leads, the one who follows, and the one who stays quiet. The difference back then was that hierarchy could mean access to food, safety, or even the chance to pass on your genes. And it was in this dance of power that the first seeds of politics and war were planted. Over time, living in groups stopped being only about protection from predators. It also became a stage for internal disputes. Among our ancestors, alpha males held power not only through physical strength but also through their ability to build alliances. It was a rough but strategic social game, where knowing who to stand beside could be as vital as having sharp teeth. If you've ever seen how elections work at school or even in the office, you'll realize this logic hasn't changed much. Power rests more on networks of trust than on brute force alone. Little by little, the first signs of what we might call politics began to emerge. It was the art of persuasion, of making deals, and even of betrayal when it served a purpose. This primitive politics had no fancy speeches or podiums, but it showed up in access to food, mates, or land. And if you think about it, how often do we use the same strategies today? When someone negotiates a discount, teams up with a colleague to defend an idea, or hides information to gain an advantage, they're echoing the exact instincts of our early ancestors. And when those disputes grew bigger, something heavier appeared: the first organized wars. These weren't battles like in movies, but planned attacks to seize territories or capture women from rival groups. It was in these moments that human intelligence revealed its darker side, the ability to coordinate violence for control. And in a world where life was fragile and often cut short, a strange new awareness began to take shape, the understanding that death was inevitable, and perhaps it needed some kind of meaning. At some point in our journey, humans stopped in front of a lifeless body and noticed something different. It wasn't just the absence of movement, it was an ending that could one day come for them as well. This recognition of death as an inevitable reality was a shock of awareness that forever separated humans from other animals. It wasn't only about losing a group member, it was about confronting their own fragility. From that moment on, life could never be lived the same way, because every action carried the weight of mortality. That's when the first funeral ceremonies were born. There were no temples or elaborate chants, but there were simple gestures: burying, covering with stones, leaving flowers, or even food beside the dead. These were clear signs that death wasn't seen merely as disappearance, but as a passage worthy of respect. Today, when someone lights a candle or keeps a photo of a loved one, they are repeating the same ancestral impulse, the desire to keep memory alive and give meaning to what feels unbearable. And with these rituals came a new kind of thinking, reflection on time and the finiteness of life. If the end is certain, what should be done with the days that remain? That question was already echoing back then, even without words to express it. It motivated care for the living, the search for prehistoric healing with ancient medicinal plants, and the invention of new primitive tools to extend life a little longer. Paradoxically, death gave more value to life. And from this mix of fear and reverence, humanity began to build not only cultures, but also dreams that could outlive generations. Now that you know this piece of the secret origins of humanity, tell me, what are you doing with the tools life has already placed in your hands? Are you repeating the mistakes of those who survived only by instinct, or have you learned to turn every detail into an opportunity? Think about it. If our ancestors could evolve from a stick and a handful of ancient medicinal plants, what can you create today with the knowledge and resources you already have? Let me challenge you. If time were as short for you as it was for them, how would you choose to live? Running without direction, or building your own legacy? That's the reflection I want to leave you with, because life doesn't wait, and every day is a chance to rewrite your own story. If this content resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Here you'll keep uncovering hidden secrets from the past that can transform your present. After all, our journey together is just getting started.